What is up, people? And thank you again for listening to this very special edition of the New Generation Sports Talk podcast. We've been trying to get a lot of interviews during this pandemic. We had one a couple of weeks ago, and we're very happy to have a very special guest, Kendall and I, who Kendall, of course, joins me as always. The undefeated ESPN The Undefeated is Marc Spears joins us on the show today. Marc, thank you so much for doing this. It's been 9 months in the making. I'm really happy we were able to set this up.
No problem, man. I had to fix my Janet Jackson microphone there, man. Like I'm in a concert. We've been trying to put this up, for months now.
I know.
Long before the pandemic showed up. So, pleasure to finally talk to y'all, man.
I know, yeah. I got to meet Marc over at the NABJ convention, and for any young journalists, black journalists, NABJ has been great for me. I know it's been great for Marc. He's been really involved with that, and we've been trying to work on something ever since. I'm really excited that I was able to finally get him on. So obviously Marc Spears, you guys probably know. You probably see him on ESPN. You've seen his articles with The Undefeated. He's written for Yahoo. He's written for the Boston Globe. Written in Denver. He's been pretty much all over the NBA landscape when it comes to journalism. And I feel like I have a certain kinship to Marc because I read that you always wanted to be in sports journalism as early as like 7th grade. And, I always tell the story on this show about how I was doing Knicks play-by-play games as a 6-year-old. My parents knew very early that I wanted to be involved in sports broadcasting and sports journalism. And but the one thing you also notice about Marc, if you ever meet him, is he's really tall. When I first met you, you were like at least 6'5". I think you 6'5" there, probably 6'6".
I'm 7'1" now. I grew.
so then I
like to say I'm 6'6". I'll go with 6'6".
Okay, yeah, and I learned that that you used to hoop back in the day. You played college ball before suffering an injury at San Jose State. In high school, you were an all-league hooper in San Jose, which I've actually done some reporting on, like some really good players coming out of San Jose. If you guys don't know about that area,
Yeah.
what was it like? I guess first of all, I wanted you to describe your game, but also what was that transition like going from being a player to then first having to cover baseball, which I don't know if a lot of people knew you had to cover, and then later kind of covering the NBA.
Ooh, well, where should I start first? Let me know where you want me to start.
What your game? What was your game like? If someone had described Marc Spears as a player, what would they say?
Kind of patterned myself after Charles Barkley. Whether I was him, that's another story. But I patterned myself after him. Couldn't shoot outside of 5 feet. Was a horrible free throw shooter. But my last year that I did play was at the University of DC, a Division II school. Often patterned myself after Charles, man, which I don't know if I've ever told Charles that. But I was like a undersized 4, very physical player. I think my best high school game, I had 32 points and 24 rebounds. And my best college game was actually my last one, playing for the University of DC. I had 32, but I had a lackluster college basketball career. Things didn't work out at San Jose State for a variety of reasons, which kind of have helped me get to the undefeated for part of those reasons. A knee injury combined with the coach not liking what I was writing about the lack of black coaches in college basketball. That's another story. But I started getting into journalism in the 7th grade. We had a career day in which the Golden State Warriors actually had a representative that came to my junior high school, Silverdale Junior High School in San Jose. And he actually pointed at me and asked me, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And at that time, my love for basketball was just on another level. But I played Little League baseball. I played, football. I played soccer for a few years. I just love sports. And he asked me, what do I want to do when I grew up? And I'm like, I want to play for y'all. And he's like, well, what are you going to do if you can't play for us? Or what are you going to do if you are hurt? And I'm like, I don't know. But he gave me some amazing advice. He goes, if you can combine what you love most in life with what you do best in school, you could find a career that you could be happy going to every day. Amazing advice to give a seventh grader, and I really, really thought about it. And at that time, I read Sports Illustrated front back to cover, front to cover. And I remember seeing a stat in there when I was in the seventh grade that less than 2% of college basketball players make it to the NBA. And that stat like really, really stuck with me. And I was like, dang, if I can't make it to the NBA, like, what am I going to do? Like, I obviously the stats aren't working for me. And I really thought about what that man said. He said, so what do you love the most? And I was like, I love sports. What do you do best? Well, I'm terrible in science. I'm terrible in math, but I could write. I'm good in English, creative. He said, combine those two things and you'll find a career that you're happy to go to every day. So I was like, sports writer. Sports writer. I like, if I can't play in the Super Bowl, if I can't be playing in the NBA Finals or playing in the World Series, the next best thing is to be there, right? And that was like something I thought of in the seventh grade. So we had my teacher, Mrs. Thompson. She asked our class, which was I was in some like special class for creative thinkers. This is called Horizons. I don't know how I'm starting to remember this stuff, but he asked me. She asked our class to write a letter as an assignment to somebody in a field that we were interested in. So I wrote a letter to a sports writer from the San Jose Mercury News by the name of Marc Purdy, and he wrote me back, basically telling me everything I needed to do from seventh grade through college to be a sports writer. He's like, write on the junior high school paper. When you get to high school, take all the typing classes you could take, write on the school paper or write on the school yearbook. Once you get to college, write on the school paper, get as many internships as possible. And I still remember how the letter looked and the envelope and the San Jose Mercury News emblem on it. I like still remember the letter, and I kept it like it was like this journalism Bible, and really, really paid attention to it. And so I actually started my first writing job was in the seventh grade, covering the eighth grade flag football team for the Silverdale Junior High School paper. And the seventh grader made the decision to put the J in my pen name. That's where the Marc J. Spears from. Like my middle name is Joseph, and I decided to put it in my pen name in the seventh grade, and I've been using it ever since. So if you go down to Silverdale Junior High somewhere and go look in the archives, there are some stories somewhere, probably don't exist anymore. They probably threw it away. That includes my name on it, covering the flag football team, the eighth grade flag football team. And
wow.
Then when I went to high school, I took all the typing classes I could take. I wrote on the school paper. There happened to be a guy named Mick Van Valkenburg who worked for the San Jose Mercury News, who basically after school ran our school paper. So I got to talk to a journalist that was like a full-time journalist every day.
Wow.
While writing on the school paper, and learn from him. And he gave me more insight and more inspiration. And I'm playing high school basketball at the time, and my grades were terrible. I had a 2.2 GPA in high school. I actually had an offer to go play at Columbia in the Ivy League in Division I, and then they saw my grades and they're like, nah.
Yeah.
And that like just still bothers me to this day that my grades weren't good enough to go to this Ivy League school, which perhaps had the best journalism school in the country.
Right.
Messed that. Could have been in New York City hooping. Messed that up. And then I went to the junior college route, wrote on a school paper at Foothill College, played there for 2 years. After those 2 years, I sent a letter to I needed an internship. And I'm like, well, shoot, I'm still green in the business, do an internship for free. So I wrote the San Jose Mercury News, the San Jose Metro, which is a weekly newspaper in San Jose, and asked them if I could write their sports stories for the summer.
Wow.
And all they have was a bunch of neighborhood papers and a weekly entertainment paper that's still in San Jose. And the lady was like, yeah, we have all these neighborhood papers and nobody wants to write sports. You can write all the sports stories you want.
You felt
So I
it
started
was a
writing for
perfect
them.
opportunity then.
The first story I wrote for them was at a 3-on-3 Nike 3-on-3 basketball tournament, and Tim Hardaway and Chris Mullen were there. They were like my first interviews for a publication.
Oh wow.
And I remember I was so nervous. I told Tim Hardaway this. I was like super nervous interviewing him. It was when like Run TMC was hot. And I
Yeah.
did a story for them, and a bunch of like any story that came in that was sports related, they gave it to me, and I got clips and put it on my resume. And people didn't know that I wasn't getting paid. They knew I was writing for this place and getting experience.
All right.
And then after that, went to the University of DC, played there for a year. The academics were terrible. Now I'm like good in school and care about school. And so they weren't offering two of my classes going into my senior year. So I gave up a full scholarship, transferred to San Jose State. Um, but I applied for an internship through the National Association of Black Journalists. Uh, and I applied for like 20 other internships, got vetoed everywhere. Veto, veto, veto.
Wow.
But through the NABJ, I think I was the last person they picked, man.
Wow.
The last. And I got an internship in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Did an internship in Grand Rapids. They had a unity paper in '94. It was the first ever all minority journalism convention. And it was NABJ, the Hispanic group, Asian group, Indian group, all came together. So I got to write on the first ever unity paper, got better experience with that. Did an internship in Grand Rapids, interviewed some young fighter by the name of Floyd Mayweather, covered a Cubs game, did Detroit Lions practice, minor league baseball. So now my clips are pretty good.
Yeah, you're in the big leagues now.
Yeah, yeah. I get back to San Jose State, like actually also during my redshirt year at San Jose State, I had a teammate by the name of Terry Cannon, who was our star player. Shout out to Terry Cannon. And he was getting interviewed by a San Jose Mercury news columnist by the name of Bud Geraci, who's one of the greatest columnists I've ever read. So I waited for, I'm big on the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I waited for Bud to finish his interview with Terry and waited for him. And then when Bud was over, I said, Mr. Geraci, can I talk to you? Told him about my writing dreams and what I wanted to do and what I have been doing. Like 3 days later, he had me in the San Jose Mercury newsroom taking calls for high school football scores, typing in the stats into the computer. 2 months later after that, when time permitted, now I'm writing high school basketball stories because the people there learned to trust me. And I was writing high school basketball stories for the San Jose Mercury News, the paper I grew up with, and I'm getting paid for these stories. San Jose State, redshirted, blew out my knee, tried to rehab when I went back to Grand Rapids, came back, and the coach didn't like the fact that I actually wrote a story for the student paper about the lack of black coaches in college basketball at the time, and actually wrote that every black college basketball player in the country should sit out a game. And after that, me and him were at odds, and he kind of, in a little interesting way for another day, got me pushed off the team.
Wow.
Because he didn't like the fact that I wrote that, which perhaps is part of my ire that helps me write what I write for The Undefeated, right? So,
yeah.
So I ended up graduating from San Jose State, and now I won a first-round pick basketball-wise, but journalism-wise, I'm like a first-round pick, man. I got internships offers from the LA Times, the Washington Post, Dallas Morning News, which at that time had a Sunday sports page that was 75 pages long.
Yeah.
Now I'm like the guy.
Yeah.
The year before, nobody even knew who I was nor cared. And I also got this offer for a 2-year internship program in Portland at the Oregonian. Ended up betting on myself and went to the Dallas Morning News, interned there. And from there, I got an internship at I got my first job at the Tulsa World covering Arkansas's football and basketball team. making 19,000 before taxes.
Whew.
But covering the SEC, I ain't really had no bills, so being broke was nothing new to me, anyways. Um, and I was covering Nolan Richardson, one of the legendary coaches in sports history.
Yes.
And like my career all started from there, but it all basically started from me writing Mark Purdy a letter when I was in the 7th grade.
Wow. That's crazy. And I think it's awesome that for Kendall goes, I think it's awesome that that experience with getting that last spot with NABJ and how you've been able to still be so a part of the program. I think is also really awesome because how many people don't as my one of my mentors used to say you go up the elevator, you got to send it back down to help, and I think that the fact that you've been a part of that is awesome.
Oh, I mean, it's I kind of scold some of my fellow journalists sometimes. They're like, man, I don't need to go to the NABJ convention, man. I got a job. I said, it ain't about you. You succeeded. Go help somebody else. Like,
right.
I learned a long time ago that a lot of me going to the convention is to be there for young journalists like yourself, to be available to answer questions. Like, to me, like David Aldridge shout out to David, is the master of it. Like, and I try to follow him. Like, when he goes to NABJ, he basically is like, I'm here for the younger journalists.
Yes.
What do you need? What do you want? And like, I was actually, I hope these two guys are listening. I was like pissed after the last convention, during the last convention, because, we have our business meeting. And after the business meeting, I like to sit outside and be available for all the young journalists who have questions. And there might be like 15, 20 kids that might have a question over the course of NABJ. And I got pulled into some ESPN meeting about a documentary interview that I actually did with David Stern.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. Shout out to David Stern, RIP.
My condolences to the Stern family, too. But I got on those guys. I'm like, look, man, we could talk about this, but I'm here for these young journalists, and you're taking away time from them.
Right.
Oh, we're going to be real quick. We're going to be real quick. So I go in another room. I talk to them. This conversation takes about 15, 20 minutes. When I come back, everybody's pretty much gone, man. And I was really upset about that, because that's something at the convention that I love doing the most, is like talking to the young reporters, young journalists. And for any young journalists, like, it's sad that they're not going to be this convention because of COVID.
Yeah.
But next year when it comes back, like, don't be shy to go up to your journalism heroes and introduce yourself and ask questions. That's what we're there for, and that's what I tell like the older journalists. Like, it ain't about you, ain't about you not needing a job. It's about you giving back to the person, to the youth, and pulling them up because there was somebody that pulled you up too.
That's what's up.
Wow. Yeah. My next question is, obviously you talk about your kind of upbringing in journalism, and obviously a lot of that has been, around the NBA and being able to cover the NBA in a more traditional sense. But during this kind of these unusual times, you've now had to transition to not covering the NBA remotely. What has that transition been like? How is that? How have you adjusted to this time with really no basketball? It's a suspended season. And where do you think we are in terms of Adam Silver's decision and the players' decision to potentially resume the season?
What helped prepare me for this was the lockout. I believe, was it 2012, 2013, the lockout?
Yeah, I think it was 2012.
And not that it was obviously to this kind of like health scare. Not even, it wasn't a health scare. It was a work stoppage. But if you think about it, like, the lockout basically was from July to like mid-December.
Yep.
And there had been other lockouts since in the 21 seasons I've been covering the NBA, but nothing to that length. So, they had to shorten season. Was it like 65 games or something like that? And it didn't start till around like Christmas time that year. But at that time, like I had to be really creative and try to come up with stuff, you know. And there were like a lot of players like barnstorming. I think like a bunch of NBA stars went and played in the Philippines.
Yeah.
That's when the famous Kobe versus James Harden game at the
Yeah, Drew
in
League.
LA
Yeah.
at the Drew League took place. I was going to a lot of Drew League games. I remember I even interviewed the Game,
Mm.
the rapper,
Yeah.
about he like ran a Drew League team, and so you just had to be really, really creative. So I kind of went back to that mind frame now, like, okay, you got to be creative. And initially, a lot of players didn't want to talk, so now it's like where all your relationships are extremely important.
Mm.
Where getting people to call you back, for beat writers that don't have strong relationships with the players they cover, it's tough. Trying to get somebody
Yeah.
to call you back when you never had their phone number. But luckily, through my years, I've always been blessed with having good relationships with a lot of players, a lot of front office people, a lot of coaches, like, and then I try to be always been creative. Sometimes I'll just sit quietly and read team names, close my eyes, look at a team. Okay, Atlanta Hawks. Okay, what's interesting about them? Boston Celtics. What's interesting about, you know what I mean? Like go through it. Charlotte Hornets, and write down different ideas that I can implement later. And you know, sometimes you got to go outside the box too. Like I've done a story on NBA chaplains, how they're dealing with COVID, NBA in-house DJs. Obviously, The Last Dance has helped a lot of us journalists have something to write about.
Yeah, for sure.
During this time, we started at The Undefeated. A couple shows included Round Ball Rap, which is actually the name of an old radio show I used to have in Denver when I was working for the Denver Post. That Popeye Jones used to be my co-host, and then Hall of Famer Dan Issel was my second co-host. And I brought that name back, and now Kenya Martin's my co-host. And we've had some really, really great guests, and most of our talk has been about, you know, the Last Dance. So, but now that's over. All right, now I got to get back to no hand delivered thing to talk about. I got to be creative some more. So
yeah,
that's kind of, I think the lockout helped me figure out how to have that right creative mindset today, where there is no basketball being played. In terms of, you know, what's next, you know, I've heard a lot of talk about there being games in Orlando, being games in Las Vegas, and maybe you send the Eastern Conference teams to Orlando, to the Disney facility. Maybe you in LA, in Vegas, you send the Western Conference teams there and have them stay at the MGM, where there's a hotel connected to the arena.
Yeah.
Just the thing, though, is like, how do you ensure that everybody's going to stay healthy?
Exactly.
How can you promise me that nobody will get sick? Can you promise me that nobody will die? If something tragic happens, who's responsible? That's the scary thing for the NBA. That's the scary thing for the teams. That's the scary thing for the players. Now, I think the players are just more probably cavalier. They want to get back. They're younger. They're not thinking about their 65-year-old coach maybe getting sick.
Exactly.
You know, or the general manager of the team, maybe, or not even themselves getting sick. There was a 30-year-old baseball player from the Oakland A's farm system who died from COVID, you know. Right. So, sadly, tragically, nightmarishly, if the NBA comes back, that's a reality to what could happen.
Yeah.
And so you're going to basically tell all these guys to go stay in a hotel room and not go outside. And then they're going to have their families with them who may go outside. And what about the people working at the hotels? They don't live there. What, you going to make them live at the hotels too?
Right.
They're not going to go outside. Like,
have you,
lady that cleans your room, the person that cooks your food, like, it just takes one person to have it to get a whole team sick. And like, to me, if I'm like the leader of a team, I'm telling my guys, like, look, it's gonna be the hardest thing that we've ever had to do, but I think it's probably better for players not to have anybody with them.
Yeah.
To just be the team and that's it, and knock that season out. Because if the season were to resume, the way it sounds like to me, if one of the players get it, they ain't stopping.
Yes, that's what it sounds like.
No matter who you are, that they're gone for 2 weeks. Imagine like a superstar or Kawhi or LeBron or Giannis like getting it before the start of the finals.
Yeah.
They're not playing in the finals.
Yeah.
And so that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
What if somebody gets sick? What if somebody passes? We had one superstar in the NBA whose mom passed.
Yes.
I don't know if Karl Anthony Towns wants to play.
Yeah.
So I just, to me, I don't know if it's worth it. I think, sadly, finances blur reality. And so I myself, do I think it would be the right idea to come back? I don't think so. Do I think they're going to come back? I think they're going to try. Yes.
We heard in baseball, Blake Snell, who's a pitcher from the Rays, kind of speak up about him saying, I'm not coming back at a certain rate because of the dangers. Have you heard any sentiment around the league from agents or players about any real concerns? Or do you feel like it's been a unanimous thing about wanting to play?
I think if he said he was going to come back, he wouldn't come back for health reasons. I think maybe more people might ride with what he's saying. The financial part, everybody's getting hit financially.
Yeah.
You got people out of work, so I think it's going to be hard for him to get sympathy from folks that ain't got a penny coming in. And,
Yeah.
You know, society has never had sympathy for a rich person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I saw today, like, half of, like, restaurant workers don't have jobs right now. You think they care about this dude getting a pay cut?
Right.
Millions of dollars. For the NBA players, I think the one thing that Adam Silver has done a great job of, or maybe baseball is doing it now, is trying to be transparent on what the financial situation is and what they're losing. You know, like what they say, the fans are like 40% of the income of the revenue. Fans coming to games, and that's gone. So, like, be honest about the situation, you know, and that's, I think the NBA has done at least a good job in that regard, is letting them know what they've lost by having no fans there, but what they can potentially gain by completing the season. So I think it's just inevitable that you have to take a pay cut because the money ain't the same.
Yeah.
And if they don't finish the season out, then I wouldn't be surprised if the NBA has to give back some sponsorship money.
Yeah.
Finish the season, other monies. So, to me, if a player says, I don't want to do it because I'm worried about getting sick, getting somebody else sick, dying, there's no argument for that.
Yeah.
There's no debate for that. If you don't feel comfortable playing for health reasons, I understand, man. I'll see you next season.
Yeah.
Financial reasons, I think it's hard to wave that flag right now.
No,
right.
No,
that's a financial problem I think all three of us wish we had.
I would definitely agree with that. Now we talked about the Last Dance.
Playing with a mask on, gloves on. And this is that kind of money. I might, I used to hate playing pickup basketball with the dudes that wore baseball caps. Yeah, as a player, I'd have a mask on, shield, everything. There you go. You talk bad about me all you want. I'll be out there hooping with a shield.
Yeah. It's funny. Me and Kendall on the podcast a couple days ago.
Shoot.
Yeah, me and Kendall on the podcast a couple days ago was talking about maybe the referees need to even be, calling the games from, some maybe Secaucus or somewhere. I don't know.
They can't. I think the media won't be there. I think it'll be similar to like what you're seeing with the Korean Baseball League. Like they're calling games from Bristol,
Yeah.
from a different country
Yeah.
on the other
Yeah.
side of the
Outside
world.
the world. Yeah. Exactly.
So will I be there? Will the media be there?
Hmm.
That will be an interesting thing to see. Um, I could like, should a sideline reporter be there? I think the NBA is probably going to have make it as minimal as possible.
Yeah.
And
And
so I have no clue what kind of access, if any, that we will get.
mm,
But I do think the NBA and teams realize that they need the publicity. They want this etched in historical stone, like written about and covered and historically. Like I saw a story about San Jose State. One of my alma maters also got a master's from LSU. Um, 2019, how the school dealt with the Spanish flu, and they had stories about it and pictures, and like now 100 years later, we're reading about it and looking at it, and so I think there'll be some historical value in allowing the media to cover this in a healthy fashion and safe fashion.
mm. Now I want to shift gears a little bit. We talked a little bit about how a lot of us have been eagerly watching The Last Dance since it's the only real new basketball content that we have, and I think it's fascinating to me that you started covering basketball at the Denver Post in '99, which is just as MJ is left the building, and the Bulls are now in kind of a different
Uniform.
yes, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think I've seen, I'm sure you've seen as well, is that there seems to be a generational divide in how people have digested this 10-part series. What do you think are the biggest misconceptions people have about the NBA during that era? And what was the void of Mike being gone as you step into covering the league like that?
Well, the one thing that was interesting about Jordan is, and when people ask me, did I get to know him? Like I was talking to Michael Wilbon recently, and he's like, "Yeah, man, Mike talks about you when you're writing sometimes." I'm like, he knows who I am. He's like, "Well, yeah, you were around that time." Then I'm like, Mike, I wasn't in your circle then, man. I was some young journalist trying to figure it out. I wasn't going to get drinks with Mike after a game. Y'all didn't love me like that.
There's a certain tier.
Yeah. Maybe now, like, it's like, well, we have a barbecue now. You there? I'm like, yeah. Thank you. But when I started covering basketball in NBA in '99, like Jordan came to the Wizards 2 years later, I believe. It was too late for me to build a relationship with him. Like, I wasn't covering the Wizards. I was covering a team that played them twice a year. And then maybe I seen them at the All-Star game, and the Wizards weren't good enough to really make the playoffs or do anything. I don't even think, did Jordan even play a playoff game with the Wizards? I don't think so.
They never made the playoffs.
So my access to him was minimal. I think he knows who I am just because I've been around so long now, and he reads. He's a voracious reader, I'm told. But he was so big at that time that when there was a game, it was like 20 people around him at shoot around, 30 people around him after the game. I might have got one or two questions in, but I'm just some black kid in a group. You know what I mean? So I wasn't able to build that relationship. But it's funny because to me, like, the Wizards are like the lost tapes. You never see those any highlights from those Wizard days, right?
Yeah.
It's like nobody talks about them. I remember going to a game when the Nuggets played at Washington with Sean Leonard, who was actually, to me, one of the greatest shooters of this game. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Sean Leonard.
Oh, I'm a Knicks fan from the '90s, so I know Sean too well.
He could shoot it. And one time, great quick story on Vashawn Leonard. There was this guy named Mark Anthony, Oakland guy, who was talking trash. He was a big time NBA heckler, and he got Vashawn Leonard mad, and Vashawn scored 21 points in one quarter, and basically put the Warriors away in one quarter. And it was I remember the Warriors players were mad at him for firing Vashawn Leonard up. It was one of the greatest quarters I've ever seen. But I bring up Vashawn Leonard because Rashawn Leonard could shoot it, but I don't think he could dunk. And he might be mad at me for saying that. Like, if he could get one in, he could squeak it in. In one game, and I think it was Jordan's last season, he blocked Jordan's shot and stood over him while Jordan was laying on the ground. And I was, yeah, it's time for him. This ain't air. This is ground. You know what I mean? This ain't the same guy that we were accustomed to seeing. Vashawn, that might have been Vashawn Leonard. Shout out to Vashawn Leonard. His only block of his career. So, but that time, you know, I've been talking about it in some of my tweets. Like, we could go to practice then, and they would be like, okay, you can't be on your cell phones. You can't be on your computers, which there was really no wireless then, you know, in the early 2000s. You had to, like, if you came to practice, you had to be there. Like, practice started at 10. We had to be in the gym 9:45, and we couldn't speak, only at a whisper. And they used to let us watch the entire practice, which was great because you learned a lot about why guys are playing or not playing, and saw scrimmages and learned about, oh, this guy's starting to get better, and why isn't this guy playing? Oh, now I know why this guy's not playing. And then around 2005, a bunch of NBA coaches didn't like media being in there because somebody, like, there was an unwritten rule that if there was a fight, we didn't write about it. Some people started breaking those rules, and with blogging, and there wasn't no Twitter yet, but there was like you could put out a blog or a blog post. Stuff started coming out, and then the coaches shut that down, and it became, well, you could watch the last 15 minutes of practice. But like Jerry Sloan, the coach of the Jazz, like, he used to come and eat dinner with the media before the game.
Wow.
Him and a couple of assistant coaches. So you would go in the media room 30 minutes before a game, and Jerry Sloan was in there in the media room getting his food like the rest of us. He would sit down there, eat dinner, and I got to be cool with him. So when the Nuggets were playing the Jazz, I could sit next to Jerry.
Wow.
And pick his brain and talk to him and laugh. He thought I was kind of funny, and you know, and a lot of times the conversations were just about life, and we didn't even really talk about basketball. And so, like, the access then, like, if you remember when the Celtics won, and I covered the Celtics for 2 years, you hear Kevin Garnett, anything is possible. Like, if you look in the background, you see me. If you watch that game, I was like 5 feet away from the Celtics bench. I remember when Big Baby cried after Garnett cursed him out. We don't get that seat no more. We don't get that access no more. It's kind of sad, because now, and hopefully maybe during this time, NBA and the players appreciate the media a little more. Like, they're like, look, there's always going to be some kind of media fight with some player or something like that. But I think the access we had to the players back then allowed us to get to know them better, and they get them to know us better and allow us to do greater stories about them. Then now, and now the scary thing about with the nightmare that is COVID, like the last game I went to, we couldn't go in the locker rooms anymore.
Wow. Yeah.
What is it going to be when we get through this? And until there's a vaccine, I don't see why they would let us in the locker rooms. And I understand. So I think it's going to be tough for journalism in sports to recover from what's going on now, understandably so.
Yeah, and you personally have been a sort of an advocate for elite high school basketball players in terms of them being able to profit off of their kind of talent, and kind of maybe finding other ways to maybe circumvent the NCAA system. We even had last week Cody Topper, who's an assistant at Memphis. We had him on our show, and he even said that he wasn't a fan of really the NCAA pushing some of the best talent out of college basketball, and that he feels like the G League is a good system, that they have a good system there. And what do you make of what the G League has kind of, what do you make of their plan right now? Obviously, they signed Jalen Green, who was supposed to go to Memphis and decided to go to the G League, signed Isaiah Todd, Daishen Nix, Kai Soto. What do you make of this new initiative that pays players, anywhere from $200,000 to $1 million, depending on who you ask?
I don't think it's $1 million. I think.
Yeah, I think Green. I think that's 500,000. I think.
Yeah.
I think Jalen's probably getting around 600,
Okay.
which is a tremendous amount of money. And the minimum is 125K. I wonder what took players this long. Like, if you're an elite player, like, why go to Australia? Why go to China? Why go to Italy? Like, I talked to Brandon Jennings about it, who went to Italy out of high school. He told me that if they had this route, he would have went this route.
Wow.
Like, now the paid like this part changed the game.
Yeah.
And it needed somebody of note. Like, if you needed a Jackie Robinson, Jalen Green was the best one.
Right.
I've spent some time with Jalen. Bright kid, gets it, socially gets it, understands that he's a role model, wants to be a role model. Just a good kid, and he got game. He could play.
Yes, he can.
So for him to be the Jackie Robinson, so to speak, of this I think it's perfect. He's the right guy, but if he didn't jump into the pool, I don't think these others would have jumped into the pool. So in essence, they even had to give him a grander number because I think that Sharif Abdul-Rahim and Rod Strickland were smart enough to understand that if they landed a Jalen Green, the number one guy, that was a game changer for them. I laugh at the NCAA because their greed helped cause this. And to me, all they had to do was, if I'm them, the sponsorship thing, having agents get them money, like, I did that a long time ago.
Yeah, it's something we
don't take any, like, one thing that's not being talked about is it takes $0 out of their pocket.
Yeah.
Zero. They lose not one penny. They still ain't paying nobody, right? Did I miss that?
Yeah, you're right.
They still ain't paying nobody. They're just saying, so what they're basically saying is, if you're an elite player and Jimmy's Pizza wants to, like, give you a sponsorship deal and go sign some autographs, and all for it. But who's really going to benefit from it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 1%? The 1%ers of college sports? Like, ain't nobody at San Jose State gonna make no money.
Yeah.
Ball State.
Yeah.
George Mason. Like, now, if you're an SEC kid, if you're a Pac-12 kid, perhaps there's some money to be made. Like, I remember Devin Booker saying that the day he declared at Kentucky, he did an autograph signing for $50,000. If you're a restaurant or you're a store, and you're at LSU, right? And you invited Joe Burrow to come do autograph signing, the business you would get because Joe Burrow walked in the door.
Yeah.
Or in these cities where they're like fanatical, but in the Bay Area, they're not college sports fanatical. Like, I'm thinking about all the people that came through here college-wise, like Jason Kidd might have made a couple dollars.
Andrew Luck.
Yeah. Right. Who?
Jaylen Brown. Yeah.
No. Jalen wouldn't have made no money. Jalen wasn't no Bay Area star.
Yeah.
He's from Atlanta too, so
he's better at the Celtics than he ever was at Cal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was only here like what, a year?
Yeah,
1 year.
So he wasn't established. So like, if Jalen would have went to Kentucky,
yeah,
it would have been different. Or, you know, if you play football at LSU, it's a different ball game. But if you're going to like even UCLA kids, people in LA don't care really no more. Maybe they do about USC football and
Mm-hmm.
If you're a Heisman candidate, or like, think about it, was Russell Westbrook renowned when he played at UCLA?
Nah.
And O'Bannon was like, so like, when in basketball, I think it's harder to like make money off of this because the best players don't stay long. Like
Yeah.
like Devin Booker wasn't no star at Kentucky. People, and he made 50,000 because he played Kentucky basketball. So like, I think this helps the Kentuckys and the Kansases in terms of basketballs, or the LSU's in football, because if you're in a major metropolitan market, like if you're playing for Washington, there's too much going on. You play for Stanford. I bought season tickets since over the last 10 years. I bought season tickets to see Andrew Luck at Stanford for 2 years. I just knew Andrew Luck was special.
Yeah.
So I paid for that. I don't think I've been to a Stanford game since Andrew Luck left. So to me, it could have been a brilliant move a long time ago for the NCAA to just say, well, I mean, if they're this good, then they'll get money. But they're still not paying the players, which is wrong.
Yeah.
Another thing is, so it ain't no victory. To me, it ain't no victory for the college athlete because they're still making billions and these kids aren't seeing anything. Just give them all like an extra $150 a month, man. You want to really shut it down? Just do that.
Yeah.
Like Northwestern, if they would have unionized, like their football team tried to unionize a while ago. Another thing like that isn't talked about is how many college athletes who do play 4 years, which is the majority of them, leave their schools with injuries that bother them the rest of their life.
Yeah.
They get health insurance after they leave?
No.
They should be guaranteed health insurance for a couple of years, but the players, they're young, they're not thinking like that. It should be about health insurance too. Once you leave that school, I know you had ACL surgery or shoulder surgery or you had those 5-6 concussions, but you're not here anymore, so we'll give you tickets to the game.
Yeah, and you would hope
you
that.
know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I hope that there is I don't think it really changes for the college athlete until they unionize.
Now, one of the stories we've also covered a great deal is the lack of diversity in NBA front offices. Now, the NFL has had even worse issues in regards to hiring black coaches and black executives. They've caught a lot of heat for this new proposal that would tie draft compensation with black hires. What do you think are the ways the NBA or the NFL can effectively address this issue? Because these leagues are overwhelmingly black, but the men running these teams and coaching these teams they don't reflect the workers.
And we even saw it with Chicago. They didn't really interview a minority executive outside of maybe Bobby Webster in Toronto for their top executive job, and obviously ended up hiring Mark Eversley. But this is an issue that's obviously out there in the NBA as well as the NFL.
One, I think the players need to say something, because they could change that immediately. Like if they deem it important to the league, important to the teams, like anytime there's that kind of position, head coach, front office, what if the star says respectfully to the owner or whoever's doing the hiring, hey, I'm curious what you guys are trying to do? Mm-hmm. What kind of group are you guys interested in? Like the players usually turn their back to it, but they have power. Another thing the players got to realize is there's going to be a day when they unlace their shoes and they're going to want those positions.
Exactly.
So if you don't start fighting for others now, why should somebody fight for you when you're done? Right? So I think it starts with the players speaking up about the league 75% black, the league's mostly color, then the majority needs to speak out about the lack thereof, and that could change things. I think the NBA is trying, man. But as I told Mark Tatum, who's doing a fantastic job, and Ora Stewart, who's in charge of diversity with the NBA, Mark Tatum's deputy commissioner, like, they don't own the teams. You can't force anybody to do anything.
Yeah.
There's one black owner. Like,
yeah.
Right. I mean, there's a guy, I guess, Asian owner now in
yes,
with Brooklyn,
Josiah,
right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's not even racism. It's just people are just calling their friends, asking them who they should look at.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think was perhaps maybe the deal in Chicago. I don't think the Bulls are racist. I think they just didn't have anybody black on their Rolodex.
Yes, the
circle. In their circle.
Exactly.
And so I think maybe what the NBA needs to do is start doing some things like during Summer League, have mixers where they invite the owners to come, the general managers to come, the presidents, and invite all these different people of color to come, women to come, that have potential, like handpicked people, so they could meet folks, shake hands, or not shake hands, hit elbows.
Yeah.
Get to know these people. Because sometimes it's racist. A lot of times it's just like, I don't know anybody like this. Like, I remember when I was chair of the National Association of Black Journalists about 5 years ago, I went to the Associated Press Sports Editors Convention to try to implore them to look at journalists from our membership. And I go into this meeting, and there's about 100 to 200 sports editors there. I just remember going into this big room, big ballroom, and there might have been like 5 black faces, 5 faces of color, a handful of women. And I'm like, that's why none of us are getting hired. Ain't nobody here that looks like them.
Yeah.
And so it was astounding to me that a lot of these guys were saying, well, we don't know where to go. We can't find qualified black candidates. And I said, look, you call me, and I'll give you 3 to 5 names of qualified people. And I'm not telling you that you need to hire them. But if you give them a true opportunity to show that they're qualified for this job, then I bet you'll start hiring some of these people. And immediately numbers started going up. I was getting the calls. Because their bosses were on their asses about being more diverse. So how much of them really wanted to do it or how much they were mandated to do it, I don't know. But don't tell me that there ain't nobody qualified, which is what I wrote basically to the Bulls. There's a lot of qualified people.
What do you think about
saying Arturas isn't the best hire, but at least let some qualified brothers, sisters, women, whoever come to the table and interview for the job. And if you don't think they're the best, then so be it. But you might be impressed. You just might be impressed. And so hiring the best, not the best man, hire the best person. And to hire the best person, you need a diverse group of people to choose from. So I hope that maybe with this Bull story kind of woke up the rest of the league to let them know, like, society's watching. There is some media watching.
Yeah.
Should be more. Shouldn't just be black journalists. There should be more black journalists writing about this. But, part of it maybe them being scared of ruffling the cage. There should be more white journalists writing about this.
Right. What do you think about
just scared to write about things that just affect them?
Right.
Because I say stuff about Asians that misrepresented. I'll say stuff about women. I'll say we should care about diversity
across the board
as a whole.
Yeah.
Not just diversity about black folks, Asian folks, as a whole.
And Kendall, you were asking about the NFL. You said with the NFL.
What do you think about the NFL's proposal about actually boosting draft compensation? for hiring minority candidates.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Because I don't want, like, one thing, I always hear this thing. I remember this old, like, racist saying I heard, we don't want to be forced. Nobody wants to be forced. It feels kind of forced. Like, you going to get a cookie because you hire somebody black? Like,
yeah.
I understand, but you should want to. You should want to do better. You should want to be more diverse.
Yeah.
Why don't you call out people that don't? Why don't you put out the numbers publicly that are given, ribbons? Start maybe rewarding franchises, not from draft picks, but have some awards for diversity.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things I like. Give teams award for or give out grades, public grades. Richard Lapchick does it every year. Make it public. You know what? This team, the Philadelphia Eagles, like I don't know what the Philadelphia Eagles grade is, but make public. You want to do something, make public grades about a team's front office or lack thereof, of people of color or the coaches, and it goes to PR too, doctors too, the whole franchise. Let's start pushing out what Richard Lapchick eloquently has been, his findings. That's how I think true change is made, is telling people the truth about what their numbers are. And maybe it's just some that fan base, depending on where it is, maybe they don't really care, but society cares. And maybe it may make someone think twice about, do I really want to support this franchise that doesn't really support my people?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I see what they're doing. It's creative, I guess, but I just think there needs to be more transparency of what people are like. Honor the people publicly that are doing things. Don't give them a higher draft pick. Like,
right.
And now it seems like a different game to me. Like, oh, shoot, we want to move up in the draft. So, hey, Mr. Jackson, come in.
Yeah.
We want to improve our draft status. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I don't think that proposal's it at all. Kendall, you got it?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, we talked about The Last Dance being out and that being kind of a chronicle of...
Oh, y'all brought me down, man. Like,
yeah.
Bring me back up.
Yeah, exactly. But but you actually are coming out this fall with a biography of someone that we haven't seen a lot on, but we haven't heard a lot about, and that's Spencer Haywood. You and Gary Washburn are writing this book, The Spencer Haywood Rule, Battles, Basketball, and the Making of an American Iconoclast. Of course, Gary Washburn, also writer from the Boston Globe. Tell us a bit about that project, because obviously The Last Dance is something about a guy in Michael Jordan that we've heard decades of kind of different stories on. But Spencer Haywood, somebody a little more under the radar for a lot, especially younger fans. Tell us a little bit about this project.
We started interviewing him last summer during Summer League. I've known Spencer for a while. His story is incredible. Go read what I wrote about him in Undefeated. Like, he actually grew up as a baby picking cotton. His story is absolutely crazy. He was the star basketball player in the '68 Olympics during the Black Power movement. He used to be married to Ahmad. He got kicked off of the Lakers for doing drugs the year they won a championship.
Talk about insult to injury there.
30 for 30. It's just he played so long ago that I think a lot of people don't understand how amazing the story he had. So it was great to collaborate on with my good friends, Gary, who's actually been covering the NBA since the mid-'90s. You guys should definitely have him on the show. But I think this story is so amazing. It could end up being for sure a bigger documentary, maybe even a movie. But to basically be from Silver City, Mississippi, during a time that still felt like slavery in a lot of ways, and there certainly was a lot of racism and fear, to become the person that he is now. One of the most amazing stories I've ever heard in sports. So I'm really excited about this book coming out, and the world getting to know more about a guy that, if you put a first team, dream team included, all first team USA basketball team, you have to put Spencer Haywood on it.
Wow.
Till I think recently he had the best scoring average in the history of USA basketball for the Olympics. And he did this at like 19 years old. He averaged like 20 a game or something like that.
Wow.
Off of junior college. He was playing for a junior college. It wasn't like he was playing for no big school.
Yeah.
So his story is, dad died during his youth, and his dad was a great, he built houses, like, his story is crazy. Just racism he dealt with being a caddy as a kid at the golf course after JFK died. Like, the stories are crazy, man. So I'm gonna be quiet and let y'all read the book when it comes out.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing project. I was just reading the preview and I was like, why don't I know any of this about Spencer Haywood? I like to consider myself a basketball historian, and I knew Haywood as a player, but wow, talk about an incredible story. I think a lot of people are gonna want to check that book out. But Marc Spears of ESPN's The Undefeated, I cannot thank you enough for doing this for us. This was a great conversation. I really hope at some point we can come back and do this again. This was awesome.
Real quick, Last Dance was amazing. Did we talk Last Dance? We
did a little bit. Yeah, talk about the Last Dance a little bit.
Real quick, I think The Last Dance is great for the younger generation to learn more about Michael Jordan, and this might be the last we ever hear from him. He doesn't do interviews.
Yeah,
people have to understand that. Like, this was classic Jordan, and he doesn't speak. So this is the Jordan Bible.
Yeah,
we'll never hear from him again. And I think now the younger generation knows how great he is, and it's time for Larry Bird, Doc next, and a Magic Johnson.
Please.
And Oscar
Doc,
Robertson.
yeah.
Kareem. Like, I think the younger generation needs to see these things so they can understand how great these guys are that they never got to see in person. So, but thank you for having me on, man. I know you guys been painstakingly trying to figure this out for a while.
Yeah.
But we did it, and it was a pleasure talking to you guys, and continue success, and look forward to watching you guys rise.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Marc. Good luck and stay safe during these tough times.
All right, brother. Good to talk to y'all, man.
All right, peace.
Later.